Hello, my friends. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. This is Jennifer. Well, guys, there is nothing on my design wall, so I thought we'd take a right turn, and this is my sewing wall, so this is where my sewing machines are. I did start quilting last week, but before I talk about that, I want to share with you what I did for preparation. Last week I talked about finishing the Bookcase Quilt top for my husband. You guys gave me some awesome feedback, which I really appreciate. So I did get it loaded on my frame, but before I started quilting, I went through my drawer of muslin fabric and just pulled out like a half-yard piece, and I decided to do what I did with the Indiana Jones block, where I wanted to do machine embroidery on it, but I wasn't sure about placement and whatever, so I hand drew the shapes on muslin and then machine embroidered on that first. I did the same thing but for quilting. So I drew a couple of shelves. I hope you can see this okay. I drew a couple of shelves on this fabric with just like a friction pin so that I would have guidelines to practice on. And then I loaded that on my quilt frame with some scraps of batting just so I could practice, because I wasn't really sure how I was going to quilt it and I wanted to just try some things out without trying it on the actual quilt. So this is the other shelf I drew. I first started out by going around all the books with ruler quilting, and then I tried some different backgrounds. I did like a little loop-de-loop background. This is what my original project of Doom has. Shannon Shaw quilted that way back in 2012. So I tried that. I did a little meander. I did a smaller meander. This is like a ruler background. This is matchsticks. And then I was trying out like what I was gonna do on the shelves. This isn't exactly what I'm doing, but it's very, very close. And it was a really good way for me to practice ruler quilting and kind of get my head wrapped around how I wanted to approach this bookcase quilt. So far, I have quilted the top. So I quilted the Moroccan screen part at the top, and I quilted all of the first row, and I am about halfway done with the second row. And I'm doing it just from the top down. I was really worried that if I was rolling back and forth a lot, that I might end up with some ripples or some, folds in the back fabric, even though I worked really hard to get it nice and flat and taut. I am not experienced enough at rolling a quilt back and forth repeatedly to make sure that I'm not going to do that. So I am just quilting it from the top down. So so far what I've done is I do the background first, and then I do whatever's inside. And so I'm doing like the fig, and then I change to the black thread. I roll down a little bit, do the same thing. And right now I'm going around all the books and the objects, and I start with like gray, and I do every object or book that works with gray, which is like gray, or a lot of shades of blue will work with gray, or anything that will kind of work with gray thread. And then I change to like a brown thread, and then I change to just, whatever. I'm trying to just kind of do as many as possible with one sort of neutrally thread. And then I will change to like yellow and red when I have run out of those options. There are 7 rows, and if you include the Moroccan screen top, there are kind of like 8 rows. So I've done 2.5, if that gives you an idea of how much I've done. For my own comfort, because I am quilting all of this with my hands, I don't have a computerized machine. Definitely just trying to get a little bit here and there so that I'm not wearing out my joints, because sometimes it makes my shoulder hurt, sometimes it makes my wrists hurt. I'm actually using my wrist braces when I quilt just to make sure, because ruler quilting is really hard on your joints. So I'm just trying to be as cautious as possible so I don't damage myself. The other thing I did last week was some thrift store alterations. I had purchased a few tops while I was doing the like looking for tablecloths and other fabrics to turn into shirts. I found a few that I really liked the fabric, but I didn't necessarily like the cut, or maybe it was a size too big. And so I brought some things home. I did a bunch of alterations last week. One of the main things I did is a lot of the shirts that I like that are like blousy and flowy have really weird hemlines. Like they'll have like that tail in the back, which the way I am shaped, having a tail over the back of my behind just does not look good. So I brought the ones that I really liked. I got a couple that I really, really liked, and I brought them home and I cut that off and I gave them a new hemline. So I really like how that worked out. Super simple. Not even going to show you because I just literally took that funky tail off, cut it off, kind of rounded on one, and I did straight across on another one. Worked out great. I am using my serger more for this than my Juki. So for like the hems and the sleeves. I'm using a rolled hem on my serger. So if you have a serger and you haven't tried a rolled hem, it's really easy to do. There are a ton of tutorials out there, or even look in your manual. I just followed the instructions in my user manual. I had never done it before on my serger. This is not my first serger. I've had one since like 2011, I think, and I had never done this before. So it was sort of mind-blowing to realize how easy it was. So I did that on several of the lighter weight fabrics, including the one I'm wearing. So I'm wearing this one today because this was the most dramatic makeover that I did. So let me show you the before. So this was this is like a scarf blouse, where it is a scarf folded in half that has a hole cut in the middle, and then it's stitched down the sides. And when I got it, it had two little straps and it was off the shoulder, which is cute, but it is not my style. It's just not my jam. But I loved this fabric, so I brought it home and I just put it on my table and stared at it for a little bit. And then I thought, you know what? I think I can turn that into a more peasant blouse kind of top. So I picked out the stitches on the straps and I actually took them completely apart. They were folded in and then folded in again. So there was a lot of fabric there. I cut those in half, stitched them end to end, and I made a facing that goes all the way around. I just used the existing neckline. I serged it on, and then I turned that up and top stitched it. So this little edge, you can see that it's got a little binding on it, and that is from those straps. And then I used a 1/4 inch elastic inside of the neckline, and I literally just adjusted it until I was happy with the size. So that worked really well. I will add some photos here of how I adjusted the hemline. The bottom of this had some like natty old tassels, like they had not worn well. They probably weren't meant to be machine washed or whatever, and they didn't look great. So I serged them off. I used the rolled hem foot and I just serged straight across. It worked so well. And then I just sort of pulled it up and I put a clip here, and then I drew a line straight across all the way around, and then I added elastic. So what I did was I drew the line on the inside and I tacked the elastic down, pulled it taut, followed the line, pulled it taut, followed the line. That's all I did. I just kept going until I ran out of line. I didn't measure the elastic or anything, and it gave me just really the perfect amount of stretch here. It fits great. I love it so much, guys. Speaking of thrift stores, I did get to go thrifting over the weekend. I went thrifting with my eldest child, and I also on Sunday went thrifting with Sarah. So Sarah used to do Talk to Me Tuesday. A lot of you guys know her. She is my friend who lived with us for a couple of years after she got sick, and she has been on her own for a long time now, and she has given me permission to share with you guys that she is engaged. So she and her boyfriend got engaged and will be getting married sometime in the next couple of years. So I thought that was really exciting, and I wanted to share with you guys because you were so supportive when she was staying with me. So I went to Savers with my eldest child, and I found something I've been looking for a long time, which is a birdhouse. So this is a brand new homemade birdhouse. It still had sawdust on the inside of it when I opened it up. I added the perch, but everything else was already here. So it opens here so you can clean it. It's got a little screw. I unscrewed this so that I could look inside. It doesn't even have holes to mount it yet. Somebody's project. I kind of fancy the idea of maybe this was like a Boy Scout project or something like that. It came painted. I'm gonna paint it green, and then I'm gonna mount it to the very top of my fence. So I'm very excited about this. It's a little late for most of the birds that come visit my house, but I'm still hoping maybe someone will find it this year or next year. And then thrifting on Sunday, went to Austin Creative Reuse, and I found a few things. This is 3/4 yard of a white with a little blue dot, and $3. This is similar, but with a little yellow dot. And then I found this great red fabric. I have this fabric, but in a different color. So, and this is really, I think this is my favorite shade of red. So I was really excited to find this. I paid 25 cents for another blouse pattern that I want to try. So I think that one will be fun. It's a little different than the one that I tried before. So I don't know when this will happen, but I figured I'd add it to my stash. And for a quarter, it's hard to beat. If I end up not using it, I haven't really lost anything. And last but definitely not least, I found a vintage tablecloth that had been hemmed and hand embroidered at Savers. I love this. It does have some staining I'm gonna try to get out, but I am honestly thinking that I might try to do the same thing with this as I did with this. It's a little heavier fabric, so I'm not 100% sure it would work, but I'm gonna wash it first and see how it weathers. It only has the flowers on the front. I'm also not sure if they would translate because this would be under the arm. It might end up being something completely different, but I'm just, I'm thinking about it right now. So if you guys have any ideas what I can do with this lovely $3 tablecloth, let me know. Okay guys, that is it for me. Thank you for watching to the end. And I want to thank Steph Beardsley for my first ever super thanks. That was such a fun notification to get. It's the first time I've had one. So thank you for that, Steph. If you enjoyed my content, please like and subscribe. Please comment. I love to chat with you guys in the comments. Have a great week. Have a crafty week. I'll see you next week. Bye. What are you doing under there? Hmm? What are you doing? Hi. Let me leave you? Okay.